News. 24 hours. News,
I'm Courtney
Mississippi.
Carter, and this is the Weekly Rundown. So one of the stories that you've been talking about the most this week is the fact that there were ICE agents sweeping across central Mississippi on Wednesday. Now, Agent Thomas Bird, he didn't want to call this a raid. He said they were simply serving federal warrants at several locations across the state. We do now know that those locations were in Pearl, in Flowood, Clinton, and Meridian, and a couple of other places as well. But they were serving these search warrants, these federal search warrants, but he didn't want to call it a raid. So you can find out more about that on our website at newsms.fm, and we even have some pictures there from one of the raids that we were at, or one of the events that we were at in Flowood. And so another story that you've really been talking about, budget cuts. More came down earlier this week from Governor Phil Bryant, and this time the State Department of Education and the education budget, they were cut 0.5%. Now, that doesn't sound like a whole lot, but it's $11 million. And Representative Jay Hughes says that this is not only a problem for getting school supplies, but it's actually a safety issue, as you've got school buses that could fall into disrepair, and with an $11 million deficit, you really are going to have to pick and choose where that money goes to. And Representative Hughes also said that moving forward, it could be a long-term problem, that we have trouble educating our workforce and attracting more business into Mississippi. Now, however, there were other representatives who said that it just had to happen. It was part of it, and that budget cuts have to come down because the revenue just continues to fall short. And so News Mississippi is going to continue to look into the revenue, why it's falling short, and we'll keep you up to date with the process there. Now, another process that we've been following for you is the legislative session. Appropriations bills have been coming to the floor this week, and your lawmakers have been working through them. And so one that had really caught your attention was a House bill that was a bonds bill, but within the wording of that bill, it allowed for the conversation to be started regarding the gas tax and the cigarette tax. Now, there was a lot of flack on this bill before it ever made it to the floor, and when it was brought up on the floor, it was actually killed off. And so that bill will not be coming back up, and the wording of that bill has been striked out again for this legislative session. May come back next year. But the thing with the gas taxes and the thing with the cigarette tax that would have been discussed is they were going to put the money toward roads. And so if there's not taxes being raised, there are other streams of revenue that could be discussed, or also they could be looking through what is existing in the state budget and how to allocate more funds to state highways, roads, and bridges. And so lawmakers are continuing to look into that, but there is now a bipartisan effort to at least discuss something. Now, I know that I spoke earlier this week with Senator Willie Simmons and also with Representative Charles Busby. They are working with lawmakers to try to get some kind of bill going to bring in more money. Now, right now, they say we need $350 million a year in order to maintain the roads and bridges. But the longer that the wait is dragged on, the more money they would need. And so we'll continue to follow that story for you as well. And for all of this week's top stories, you can go on our website, newsms.fm. And if you need it on demand, you can check out the News Mississippi app for Android or iOS. Just search News Mississippi in your app store. For News Mississippi, I'm Courtney Carter, and this is the Weekly Rundown.